Now, to further discuss this, I have Dikbo Oyewole. He is a strategy consultant and public affairs analyst. Many thanks, Dikbo, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so you'd agree that it is common for heads of states to engage in international travels and meet with other world leaders to discuss various important issues. But can you explain how President Tinubu's international travels contribute to enhancing Nigeria's economic growth and development?
Well, firstly, we must understand that perception is reality. And it must be seen that Nigeria is very open to business. And especially it is important that we also position ourselves on the world stage for a lot of people to know that, yes, we have a new president. Of course, 100 days have passed. Some people tell you it's not so new, but we have a new administration. Also to let a lot of people know that there's a new sheriff in town. The new boss isn't the same as the old boss, and Nigeria is open for business. So yes, it is important that we have these trips. But for me, it is very important that we have a clearly defined foreign policy. And I believe that that's what we will see in the coming weeks to come. And I say that because if you recall a couple of days ago, or like a week ago, when the president recalled all our ambassadors in all nations, we called them back to Abuja, giving them a deadline to return back home. So I believe that with that being done, we will see a fresh foreign policy with regards to what this administration is really about and how we intend to engage profitably with our neighbors across the globe as a people and as the nation state of Nigeria, among the community of nations on the earth.
All right. So, but what specific economic and diplomatic goals do you believe President Tinubu aims to achieve through his travels?
Well, firstly, the economic ones that I see are, it is important that there are clearly defined terms and parameters. For example, his trip to India, where he was able to secure a couple of $1 billion of investment. You'll notice that he didn't just go with government officials. He went with members of the private sector, which is what you do in terms of engagements like these. So we hope to see a lot more of these. And like you see other nations do, it is important that these conversations also lead to a lot of trade and commerce between our nations, and as well as the Nigerian businesses being able to situate their own presence in all these foreign nations, because it is another way of us as a nation extending ourselves through our businesses. That is what China does, that's what France does, that's what the UK does, that's what the US does. That's what all these nations that we call the first world countries or the economic superpowers, that is what they do. So they don't just pay lip service to say that, okay, this is where we are in the community of nations, but they are able to spread their tentacles by virtue of their businesses, local businesses, extending them abroad and seeing that they gain greater influence beyond their own shores.
All right, I agree with you when you said Nigerian businesses need to actually situate themselves. It's quite important. Now, but in your opinion, how can these international interactions and discussions with leaders like President Joe Biden impact Nigeria's economic stability and also its global standing?
Well, one, for our global standing, it will do a lot for us because I mean, like I said, we have a new administration, and the last administration, a lot of people will tell you that we didn't have quite a bolstering reputation in terms of foreign policy and international outlook. But so far, with this president that we have now, we have a bit of an uptick with regards to those particular factors. And with regards to how it will affect us economically, it will, of course, drive foreign direct investment into the country and see how we can boost our economy. Because one, it will help us get a lot more jobs in the system, help us situate a lot more businesses in here, get a lot more forex and all of that. So yes, long term, I see it being beneficial for us as a people, as a nation, both economically and also for our own outlook out there in the international community of nations.
All right, Mr. Oyewole. Now, there have actually been calls for the government to reduce the cost of governance, while some critics argue that international travels may be costly and sometimes not significant, how would you justify the expenses incurred during President Tinubu's trips in terms of their long-term effects or impact on the nation?
Well, for me, it might be a bit difficult putting it on a scale, because if we're looking at the cost, okay, if we're saying maybe to fill the presidential jets, the hotel stays, and all of that, with regards to the impact of those trips. Now, we must also understand that international trips for a president will not always, in every case, lead to some form of commercial benefit in the immediate foreign nation. Okay, a lot of it will have to be with regards to diplomatic relations. Now, with well-fostered diplomatic relations, then we can talk about economic partnerships, economic growth, and economic development. But yes, we have always been saying that we need to cut down the cost of governance, and I believe that how we can do that with international trips is also saying that only essential personnel go with the president on these trips. If you do not have any strategic role in all these trips and all these conversations, there's no reason for you to be there. The members of the organized private sector that go on these trips, I believe that some of them, if not all of them, go on their own private jets. So they do not necessarily need to go as part of or to be on board of the presidential fleet. No. So yes, in terms of cutting down costs, I am for that. We have advocated for that for many years now. But in terms of that particular subject of conversation and international trips, I would say we cut it back to only essential personnel. If you do not have any strategic reason to be in the presidential jets or to be in the presidential retinue, you should not be there. It's not a holiday. You're not going on vacation. This is serious business. This is a national business. So yes, we must cut it down to only essential personnel. But these trips, they must be done.
All right, thank you so much. We indeed hope that whatever is discussed at the United Nations General Assembly would be of value to Nigeria indeed. Thank you so much, Dikbo, for joining us this afternoon, I beg your pardon.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that was Dikbo Oyewole, and he's a strategy consultant and public affairs analyst